All right, Sunday night. Welcome to the Krug Show. Kev's in the house. Well, not in the house, but he's in the house for the live stream. He's down in the Southland. But you know what? We are going to talk about the NFL playoffs. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle and Better. Let's go right now. All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Sunday night, 6:43 on the West Coast, 9:43 back east. January the 19th, NFL playoffs. What a weekend, the divisional round. I don't want to be the I told you so, but I told you so. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Corte Madera. They're in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili, tell them the Krug sent you. And this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does automatically is in the running to win the J.P. Mason autographed red Niner jersey. We'll give that one away on Super Bowl Sunday after Super Bowl 59 on our post-game show. So thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We appreciate Better greatly. And let's not forget Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. My good friend Anthony Catania's at 831-521-5264. Anthony and I were trading texts during this game, Kev, because, man, this was a juicy game between the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. And when I say I told you so, all I said was I love the dogs this weekend. And sure enough, a little bit by luck, because God knows, there was a little luck involved.
The Houston Texans covering, I mean, that's going to go down in history as just one of the most crazy covers of all time. I mean, well, if you're going to go tout yourself up about being the guy that was on the dogs, I mean, I got to give you that one back.
I know, but you're right. It was 27-14. So it was a 13-point or it was a 21-14, right? Or no, it was 23-12. And then the Chiefs took the safety to make it 23-14. So instead of the Chiefs winning by 11, the Chiefs won by 9, and the Texans were getting 9.5, and thus the Chiefs' safety gave the Texans and whoever bet on the Texans the cover. But yes, the Texans getting 9.5 covered. The Commanders won outright as a dog. The Bills won outright as a dog. And Rams-Eagles, wasn't it 6.5 or 7? And the Eagles won by 6. So the Rams covered that. So it was a very difficult. First of all, it shows you how good the gamblers are. They're pegged these games just absolutely on the money for the most part, except for the Commanders-Lions. But why don't we start with today's game? Buffalo beats Baltimore, and wow, we just saw a dramatic gag job by Mark Andrews, who fumbled in the fourth quarter and then dropped the easiest 2-point conversion throw you are ever going to see. Now, granted, he was moving to his left, windy, cold, wet conditions, snow falling. You know, there's a bunch of things going on there. But Lamar did not whip that. He tried to lay it to him. He tried to just layer it right to him. It's like almost soft, nice and soft. And he dropped it. Mark Andrews, 7 targets, 5 catches, dropped the 2-point conversion and fumbled in the fourth. He undoubtedly is and then Lamar Jackson again, an interception, 18 of 25 for 254, but he had an interception. He lost a fumble. He had 2 turnovers. The Ravens were -3 in turnovers, and that's the bottom line. You're not going to win on the road in the playoffs in the NFL when you commit more penalties. They had 5, Buffalo had 1, and when you're -3 on the turnover margin. So Buffalo's moving on to Kansas City, and the Eagles will take on the Washington Commanders at the Link in an all NFC East, NFC title game. What'd you think of this one this afternoon, Kev?
No, I mean, the game lived up to the hype. I mean, I thought, but going into this game, it was going to be the best game of the weekend. Everyone thought that, and it totally was. So in terms of entertainment, I thought it was a great game. I was rooting for the Bills. I thought the Bills were a better team. And I think they were. I mean, I think the storyline to this entire weekend, honestly, maybe with the exception being the Chiefs game, is just turnovers. The team that turned the ball over more lost the game. I mean, the Lions had killer turnovers. The Rams had killer turnovers. I know the Eagles might have turned it over too, but this game, it's like Mark Andrews, that turnover in Buffalo's territory at the end of the game, killer turnover, and then that drop, obviously. But yeah, turnovers was the story here. I thought
Baltimore had 416 total yards to 273 for Buffalo. I mean, Baltimore out-yardaged them, out-rushed them, out-passed them, had almost 150 more yards and still lost the game because of the 3 turnovers.
No, I know. And that's kind of how the Lions game was too. It was like the Lions could get whatever they wanted on the ground, but they lost by 2 scores. And it's like turnovers is everything. I had a friend text me and say, Lamar Jackson is the James Harden of the NFL. And I don't know. It's kind of a good comparison because Lamar Jackson is an incredible quarterback, incredibly skilled, has a great team, wins a ton of games, but in the playoffs hasn't been able to really do much. I mean, he's had a great game against the Steelers. I'll give you a round of applause for that. Played a great game today, but what's his overall record now in the playoffs?
2-5. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. I'll say this: for a Baltimore team that runs the ball really, really well, okay, and ran it in this game for almost 6 yards a carry. How do you only have 30 runs and 25 passes in a game that was, 21-10 at halftime and 21-19 at the end of 3? I mean, it was a close game, and Derrick Henry averaged over 5 yards a carry, but he only got 16 carries. If you had told me that James Cook was going to get more carries than Derrick Henry, I would have said no way. But that happened in this game. They didn't run Derrick Henry enough. I thought they passed the ball too much. You're having a lot of success. I mean, Justice Hill, it wasn't just Derrick Henry. Lamar himself ran for 6.5 yards a carry on 6 runs. Justice Hill had 8.3 yards per carry on 6 runs. Baltimore ran for 176. But Derrick Henry gets 16 rushes. I mean, let's go look at Derrick Henry's game log for the year. How many times did Derrick Henry have less than 16 carries? Let's see. He had.
I'm just right here though.
New York Giants. He had 14. He had 13 against the Steelers. He had 11 against the Browns and 15 against Tampa. 15 against Cincy. 13 against KC. So, but I mean, Derrick Henry, who just ran 26 times last week for 7.2 a carry, had 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, and looked completely unstoppable this week, 16 carries, even though he's going for 5.3 a carry. I don't know. I mean, I know Giro is a genius, or no, Giro's with Harbs, but I know Monken is considered to be. Is it Monken? Is that the OC there?
I think so.
But I mean, come on, run Derrick Henry. You have Derrick Henry.
I think you're 100% right. That is their, that's their bread and butter. And it's funny. Like I remember going into the season, I was reading a preview, like a comprehensive preview. I think it was Warren Sharp's football preview, and he made the point that he thought the Ravens should have beat the Chiefs last year in the playoffs, and that what went wrong is that they got away from the run. And I think you're 100% right. I think that
they didn't even have Zay Flowers, Kev. They didn't even have Zay Flowers, who's their number 1 receiver. and they passed it or they ran it only 5 more times than they passed it, and you're the Baltimore Ravens
Derrick Henry had
in cold weather.
Derrick Henry had 26 carries last week. This week he had 16.
I know.
I mean, it's a huge step. I mean, they had 50 rush attempts last week. This week they had 30. And the game, it wasn't like there was some game script where they had to pass the ball. They just needed to execute better. They needed to do it more. And I agree with you. I think they kind of got away from themselves.
They also only got 1 sack all day of Josh Allen. Only 1 sack. Half a sack for Van Noy, half a sack for Matabuke. That's it. 1 sack and 4 hits. I mean, it wasn't like Buffalo got a bunch on Lamar. They only had 2 sacks and 5 hits. But yeah, they didn't impact Josh Allen enough, the Ravens, that's for sure.
I thought the game plan for the Bills was hyper aggressive. Like, they were blitzing all over the place, but they were doing it well. So I'll give credit to the Bills. They cooked up a game plan to stop this Ravens team and to apply pressure. And even with a great game plan, the Ravens really kind of were the reason they lost. You know, it's like the Bills played a great defensive game plan, but even still, Lamar had a chance and it just didn't come together tonight.
Biggest play of the game, Terrell Bernard. He caused the forced fumble on the tight end, Mark Andrews, which was huge. Also, not to be lost in this game, the leading tackler for the Buffalo Bills, Damar Hamlin.
Wow.
How about the game Damar Hamlin had? He had 8 tackles, 5 solo. He had a sack on the quarterback. He had 2 tackles for loss. He had a couple big hits. Damar Hamlin, who's literally almost lost his life on the football field, was arguably the best player on the field on the defensive side of the ball tonight, or for Buffalo. And Rasul Douglas, by the way, got the onside kick, also a nice little pickup. He had 6 tackles in this game as well. So big night for Buffalo. AJ Espinosa had a couple tackles for loss. Hamlin was great.
I thought Oliver looked
Ed
pretty
Oliver.
good.
Oh yeah, Ed Oliver was monster. Matt Milano. They did a nice job. Buffalo did a nice job. Now, that was the afternoon game. The morning game goes to the Eagles, and I don't even know what to say about this one. I mean, Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to have a hard time playing next week. He took a hit on his legs, and he got his knee twisted around, and at best, he's got stretched and strained ligaments, and I think he's going to be far less than 100% next week. But he threw for only 128 yards. Stafford threw for 324. And that another team that I thought probably should have run the ball a little bit more. Stafford, I mean, totally. It started snowing at the Anthem in Philly today, and by the end of the game, it was a total mess. And the Rams threw it 44 times and ran it 21, despite the fact that Kyron Williams was running for 5-6 a carry, and the conditions were horrible. I was very surprised by that, Kev. I thought the Rams. I realize you got Stafford and Puka and Cooper Kupp, and you're a passing team. I get it. But, man, in these conditions, you got to try to lean on your running game, and their running game was good. It just they threw it 44 times. I mean, there was an awful lot of passing from the Rams in this game.
Yeah, no, I thought the Rams defense really showed out again. Like, I thought for sure this was the game I was probably the most wrong on. I thought there was a really good chance that the Eagles were just going to blow out the Rams. I thought they're going to overpower them. They have too much talent. This Rams team is good, but they're young, and they're not necessarily. They don't really have like the star talent, at least on the defense or on the offense. I guess they do have some star talent, but on the offensive line and their defensive line, like, doesn't really compare to the Eagles. And I'll give credit to the Rams. They came to play today, and their defense played really, really well against this offensive line that the Eagles have. that's so dominant. I mean, who's the guard that they got from the Jets? That was a tackle that they moved to guard.
Mekhi Becton.
He's a monster. Mekhi Becton is a monster. That is so smart
375 pounds.
It was so smart by the Eagles to pick him up and move him inside. He had a play where he just blew up his opposing defensive lineman. And I'm just like, wow, this guy's a monster. But yeah, Saquon Barkley ran for 205 yards. So they were able to get stuff done on the ground. But the Rams, that's an ascending team to watch.
Yeah,
that they're going to be good. So for the 49ers fans that are watching, the Rams are back. If you thought that they fell off after their Super Bowl run, they're back.
Rams had 402 total yards to 350 for the Eagles. The Rams had 291 passing yards to 65 for the Eagles. The Eagles lost their first-round draft choice, Quinyon Mitchell, to an injury early in this game. But
how did the Eagles have 65 passing yards?
I know. It's crazy.
I don't think – is that possible? Because I think that's a glitch. They had 128. I'm looking at the ESPN box. It says 65 for some reason, but I think it's 128.
Yeah, okay, 128. Yeah. I guess I don't know.
No, I think it's glitched. It's glitched.
I think I must have read that wrong. But and I might have said that wrong in the video. But either way, Philadelphia, I mean, it shows. +2 in turnovers. They have Saquon Barkley. They averaged 8.4 a carry. I mean, when you're averaging over 8 yards a carry, you're gonna be good. Jordan Elliott, Jake Elliott, unlike Jake Moody, didn't wet the bed. He went 3 for 3 on field goals. The Eagles special teams unit did a masterful job of running out there, finding the spot where the kicker was going to kick from and clearing that spot away, clearing the snow away from that spot. And they did it 3 times, and they did a really good job. That's a harder thing to do. You only got a certain amount of time. You can't use anything but your hands. So I thought that was big. I thought also, Philly's defense really rose to the occasion in this game. When it really mattered, Jalen Carter came away with a huge sack. Mm-hmm. Zach Bond ruined an entire series by himself at one point. And then you look at Oren Burks had a huge game. He had 6 tackles, 4 solo, 2 tackles for loss. He had a hit on the quarterback, batted down a key pass. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was huge. Reed Blankenship played big for them. Jalen Carter was great, but they also got, sacks from Nolan Smith, from Moro Ajomo, the Texas kid, from the rookie Jalix Hunt. They got a TFL from Josh Sweat. I mean, it was a total team effort from Fangio's defense. They did a really, really nice job on for the most part. I mean, Puka caught 6 for 97 and Cooper caught 5 for 61, but neither got in the end zone. And they targeted those guys. They completed 11 of the passes to Puka and Cooper, but they targeted them 21 times. So there were 10 times the Eagles' defense stood up. So I thought overall the Eagles were impressive. Now the question is, what are the Eagles going to look like next week? They're the 2 seed. Washington's the 6 seed. And Jalen Hurts' knee looked bad. Now, Jalen Hurts also had 7 runs for 70 yards and a touchdown. Melissa Stark asked him afterwards, are you healthy? Are you going to be able to play next week? And he's like, I finished the game. There was a time there, though, I thought, they're going to have to go to the bench. And I actually called for Tanner McKee. I didn't realize McKee was inactive. What is the exact rule, Kev? Do you have to have both quarterbacks go down before you get your third guy?
Yeah, the emergency quarterback rule, the way I understand it, is you have a third emergency quarterback that doesn't count against your roster number or your game day active number, and he can only play if the second guy gets injured. So he's not
so they both have to be hurt.
Yeah, so it's not like you'd be like, actually, we want to go with our third guy instead of our second guy. It's like, no. The second guy has to go, and it has to get hurt before you can.
Well, it'll be interesting because Eagle fans. I think if you polled Eagle fans, they'd probably rather play Tanner McKee as the backup, or play. If you had to go with somebody that wasn't Hurts, I think they would rather go with Tanner McKee than Pickett, based on what they saw at the end of the year. But we'll see on that. But the Eagles now get the Commanders.
Let me add one more thing, though. I think the biggest or the best news the Eagles got today after the game was that Quinyon Mitchell seems to be okay, or
I didn't hear that.
He has a chance to play in the next game. He's an incredible corner, absolutely
great
phenomenal out of Toledo, rookie. I mean, they've rebuilt this defense so fast, and it's another one of those things. It's like just like the Rams, just takes a couple good drafts, and they're already back. I mean, they have tons of great young talent. Quinyon Mitchell is my favorite corner maybe in the NFL right now. He's incredible. He got hurt with that, I think it was a shoulder injury. Didn't play for the rest of the game.
Favorite corner in the entire league.
Well, I'm not sure.
Over Sauce? Over
No.
Over,
when I say favorite, I mean like he's like, like my like hidden gem of a corner, like people that aren't like he's a corner player that's not being talked about enough. I think, and I'm not saying he's the best cornerback in the NFL, but I think he's not being talked about enough. He's a phenomenal player, but yeah, he has potential to play next week, so that's a game changer for them in the secondary.
All right, so those were the games today. Let's hit a couple of the supers here. 49er throwback says, Larry, it's Lamar. He chokes as always. I mean, it's funny too watching all the different people battling back and forth all weekend about the pro Purdy camp feels the need to bang on the drum because it is pretty hard to win in the playoffs, and some of these guys that were being touted as great by others didn't look all that great. And then the people that are anti-Purdy, trying to reestablish the guidelines as they move the goalposts for what's successful and what's not, and this and that. I think what we all just have to realize is that football is a team game. The best quarterbacks usually win. They don't always win. They're a huge part of the game. They're not all of the game. And it's not a linear thing. It's not like if you're better, you're always better. It's, as the old coach used to say, Larry, let me tell you, boy, it's the way you play the day you play. In other words, if you don't show up, it doesn't matter who's better, It doesn't matter who's better. It's who shows up on game day. Is Eli Manning better than Tom Brady? No, he's not. But he was twice in the Super Bowl. So it's the way you play the day you play. And
in terms of the takes and just 49ers Twitter in general, it's always, I mean, football is it's always been like this, and it's always going to be like this. It's always about how did you play the last time you played. Like that's how everyone's going to judge you. That's how everyone, wants to make points about you.
You're only as good as your last show if you're a host, let's say, or
right.
if you're an athlete. You're only as good as your last performance.
Like I get it. Purdy's going to get a lot of shit because his last games weren't good. Does it mean he's not a good quarterback? No. But at the same time, it's like it goes for everything. When you win, you're on top. When you lose, you're not. And it lasts longer.
To the victors goes the spoils.
And it lasts longer because it's the NFL, because there's only so many games. And it's like your high highs of winning last for an entire week. Instead of like baseball, it's like you had a great game, but guess what? You're playing tomorrow. So like move on. Like it's a reminiscing sport for sure.
It is interesting though. If I said to you, go with the quarter, once again, my buddy who every year says, I bet the better quarterback in every NFL playoff game. Once again, if you bet the better quarterback, Mahomes beats Stroud. Okay? Daniels beat Goff. Allen beat Jackson. The only better quarterback that lost was Stafford. So, the better quarterbacks went 3 out of 4.
About that. Some would argue that Daniels is a better quarterback than Goff.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, wait, what did you say?
No,
Stafford.
I said the better quarterbacks won. Mahomes, Daniels, and Allen all won, and the only better quarterback that didn't win this weekend was Matthew Stafford.
You think Stafford's better than Hurts?
Yeah, I think everybody does. I mean, Stafford's going to the Hall of Fame, I think.
Right now, I don't know. I mean,
he's won the Super Bowl. He's one of the epic gunslingers of his era.
No, I agree.
I think under McVay, didn't they show a thing today that said
super clear cut and dry?
Didn't they say he was like 6-1 in the playoffs under Sean McVay? So now 6-2. I mean, he's on the border, right? You can't put him in with 1 because heck, Plunkett has 2 and he's not in. And Eli Manning has 2 and he's not in. But I do think Stafford is a better quarterback than Hurts. And I think most people do. Now, as far as let's go to yesterday, because we didn't come on last night because I went out to dinner with the wife, and so we didn't have a post game last night. But let's talk about yesterday's games for a minute.
For sure.
Commanders beat Detroit 45-31 in just an absolute amazing game. And it's like I said going into this game, I said, I don't think Detroit's defense can stop Jayden Daniels. And
they could not.
They didn't. They really did not. I didn't think Jared Goff would play as badly as he did, but man, he may have gotten concussed on that one play after the pick. But Goff had a nightmare day. 23 of 40, 313 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, sacked a couple times, took a couple really bad hits, made some bad decisions. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, this is, if I'm Detroit, it's what's so galling. You're at home. Jahmyr Gibbs ran for 7.5 yards a carry. Amon-Ra had well over 100 yards. Gibbs had almost 200 yards of total offense. Sam Laporta scored. Jack Campbell had 14 tackles. I would think that would have been enough to win. But guess what? No Aiden Hutchinson. It finally burned him. They had no sacks of Jayden Daniels and only 2 hits of Jayden Daniels all day. And he sat back there, and he was 22 of 31 for 299. At one point, they showed Jayden Daniels on the bench on the second half. He looked like he was downright sleepy. He wasn't wowed by the moment. He's the coolest customer there is. Guess what, Kev? I think the Commanders are going to Philly next week, and I think they're going to win.
Wow.
I think the Commanders are going to beat. I think the Commanders are going to go to Philly and beat the Eagles. Diami Brown is playing incredible football. Terry McLaurin is a terrific receiver. Zach Ertz, if he's healthy, and he was today, 5 catches. He's a money receiver. They've got some money receivers. They've got Daniels, who can run or throw. They got a big hulking running back in Brian Robinson and a complimentary guy in Eckler, who's terrific. And I mean, on defense, Jeremy Chinn's a badass. That was a great signing. Frankie Louvu's great. That was a great signing. Bobby Wagner's still doing his thing. They traded. I forgot they had traded for Marshawn Lattimore. So they got Lattimore, who's a monster. They got Mikey Sainra still from the Wolverines. They rescued Noah Igbenogany away from Miami and Dallas, and he's now playing like the first-round pick that he was. They signed Dorrance Armstrong. They signed Dante Fowler. Quan Martin's having a great year. I mean, this is Jonathan Allen. They got Clay Farrell. They got Deron Payne. I mean, this is a good football team. Washington is good, and they're going to Philly, and they're going to win.
I don't know about all that, but I agree. They are a very good team, and round of applause to Adam Peters. He's built a phenomenal team. Jeremy Chinn was like the MVP of that defense against the Lions. He's from Carolina. Picked him up. Smart pickup. Great player. I know that you were once advocating for the Niners to get Jeremy Chinn. He's a great player.
I really like him.
But yeah, no, I mean, incredible game. It was really frustrating. As someone, I was rooting for the Lions. I thought the Lions should have won that game, or not should have won that game. I thought they were going to win that game.
They were double-digit underdogs. Or almost double digits. Were they like 9.5?
It depends where you got it. The line was shifting from 8 to 10. So yeah, you could have got them at 10 at one point.
Unbelievable.
But the Lions shot themselves in the foot. It was some of these. I mean, some of these play calls. I thought. I mean, they're really creative, but I mean, when they don't work, it's just like, what are you doing? Jamison Williams.
5 turnovers for Detroit. Well, 5.
The one that's killer is like, okay, we get the Lions. They have a great OC. Ben Johnson's a great OC, running really interesting plays, and he's super creative, right? That's awesome. But it really probably bugs people when you're getting a little too creative and it blows up in your face. Jamison Williams is throwing on some trick play, is throwing a pass, and he just throws it up to no one. He just throwing it up to no one. Mike Sainristil interception. That was pretty much the game.
He had two, by the way. Sainristil had two. Detroit in this game as a team averaged 8.7 a carry, ran for 201 yards, and lost. At home, you run for 2 bills. You're averaging almost 9 yards a carry, and you lost. I mean, what do you think, Kev? Is Jared Goff? Are they going to chant Jared Goff? Are they going to keep chanting that? Is Jared Goff? I'll say this. I don't think Dan Campbell's going to win a Super Bowl in Detroit. Now, I love Brad Holmes. I think Brad Holmes is a great GM, and he'll give him a shot. But, it really shows how long these years are and how fleeting these opportunities are, and you got to make it happen. And it's like people say, well, Brock Purdy's not good enough. Well, Brock Purdy may or may not be good enough. But I gotta ask also, is Jared Goff good enough? And Jared Goff's a Bay Area kid. His dad played catcher in the big leagues for the Montreal Expos. Jerry Goff. He was a backup catcher, and he's a Marin guy, and he raised his family in Marin. Jared grew up in Marin, went to Marin Catholic, went to Cal. Good dude, and throws a really pretty ball. He's got good arm strength, but there's no mobility there at all. And if you speed him up and this was a game where his running game was averaging 9 yards a carry, and they lost. I mean, if you can't win a game when you're averaging 9 yards a carry, and you're turning it over 5 times. I mean, this one, let me ask you this, Kev. Do you think Lions fans, what's the tougher loss? This one or last year where they had the Niners down and they got all fancy with going for it 3 times on 4th down in the second half, didn't get any of the 3, saw the Niners come from behind and beat them. Is that more painful? Because, man, if Campbell just doesn't coach like a fucking idiot, they're going to the Super Bowl? Or is this one more painful because they were 15-2, home field advantage, up 7-3 at the end of the first quarter, and they just fell apart?
Yeah, no, that's tough. I think obviously you can't. Blowing a lead is like a different type of, upsetting, where it's just like that. That's like that. Obviously, in the moment, I'm sure that was probably much tougher to handle for Lions fans. But honestly, from my perspective, this was the Lions' year. So if I was if I was a Lions fan, they did have a ton of injuries, but if I was a Lions fan, I would have gone into the playoffs thinking we have a pretty clear-cut path to the Super Bowl, and we're going to get a shot to win a Super Bowl. You get bounced out in your first game. That's a tough.
At home,
after a season where you played so well throughout the entire season. It would be really tough to stomach at home with an extra rest against a team that's led by a rookie who's a 6 seed. It's just, that from a full season perspective, I would say this one was harder to swallow.
All right, let's talk about, and then, of course, the first game, Kansas City beats Houston 23-14, and, Mahomes, the numbers don't look great, right? 16 of 25 for 177, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 3 times. Kansas City could not run the ball. They averaged 2.3 a carry. Kareem Hunt was good, 8 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. So Kareem Hunt went for 5.5 yards a carry, but the Chiefs as a team went for 2.3 a carry. They gave up 5 yards a carry to Houston, who ran for almost 150 yards. But Travis Kelce saved the day. And once again, 8 times targeted, caught 7 balls for 117 and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy caught 5 of 6 targets for 45 yards. Noah Gray had some big catches. I told you guys going into this game, I said, I like Houston to cover, and I think they got a great shot in this game because I love Kamari Lassiter and I love Stingley Jr. on the corner. And I said, you know what? They are going to take away the Chiefs wide receivers. And the only way the Chiefs are going to win is if Kelsey and Mahomes and the running back have a big day. Well, guess what? Hunt scored, Kelsey scored. Kelsey had over 100-yard day. Mahomes didn't turn it over. But listen to these numbers from DeAndre Hopkins. No catches, no yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, no catches, no yards. Oh, and Hollywood Brown, no catches, no yards. And those three guys were targeted 4 times. So, I mean, once again, I mean, this Houston defense is good. And they were the girl at the end of the game was like trying to get trying to get Mahomes to say that that they were somehow disappointing or something. And he's like, no, man, that was a good defense. This Houston team's got Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. They got 2 number 1 corners. They got awesome linebackers. That's a really good team that they're playing. And Aziz looked great, and Henry Toa and Will and they all look good. But you know what? It was just too much Kansas City. They had 8 sacks. They had 14 hits on the quarterback. Karlaftis is coming into his own as a great player. He had 3 of their 8 sacks. And Kansas City did what Kansas City does. They got a couple of ridiculous calls, by the way. I mean, come on. Kansas City is good enough. We don't need to see them be the benefit. They always get the benefit of like 2 or 3 crazy calls, and they don't need those benefits. You know what I mean? So I don't. That's annoying. But other than that, Kansas City won. What'd you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked last week, it was on Monday after the last game of last round. We were talking about this game, and I thought we pinned it pretty much, perfectly. It was going to be an ugly game. I thought, even though the Houston covered on a whimsy, safety, they pretty much hung in this game for most of the game. And I think the thing that, the story on Houston, in my opinion, has just been the defense came together all at the right time. Their defense really came to play right at the right time in the playoffs, and they looked great. I think that Will Anderson is a monster.
What a stud. Yeah.
There was a play where he tackled Xavier Worthy 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage with one hand. Like he grabbed his entire body and threw him to the ground with like one arm. I was like, Jesus, this guy's a monster. But the penalties, I mean, I'm not the type of person to bitch about penalties. I understand it usually goes both ways. Team, if you're a fan of your team, you're going to say, oh, we're getting screwed, this, that, the other. Mahomes gets calls that were just ridiculous in this game. I mean, it was a 3rd and long incomplete pass. Oh, what do you know? It was roughing Mahomes on a play where he got hit in the chest right as he was throwing the football. It's like, what are we doing? And then he's like sliding late to try to get hit, and that really ticks me
on the sideline. You mean that one on the sideline where he's like standing there? Am I going to go in? Am I going to go out? And it's like, oh, you're going to hit me?
Like, that's complete bullshit. I fucking hate that shit, and it pisses me off because the NFL is trying to protect quarterbacks. I get it. Your quarterback, if a quarterback gets hurt, it's not as good of a product. It makes people put asterisks on games and say, oh, we would have won because of this. It just makes the product worse if the quarterbacks get hurt. I don't like how quarterbacks have then took that and said, oh, you're trying to protect me. Now I'm going to use that to gain an advantage, to try to get hit, to try to get injured, basically trying to get injured or trying to get hit to somehow gain a penalty. So it's like the penalties that we're giving to quarterbacks to protect them, they are using as an advantage. You're taking advantage of something that's supposed to be a good. You're turning a good thing into a bad thing. And it's like, it just ticks me off because it's like, you're not playing football the way it's supposed to be played. You're playing it for some bullshit penalty, and you know that you're going to get it. So you're going to tiptoe around, and then you're going to sit down at the last second. And the defender who's run from 30 yards across the field, all of a sudden has to avoid hitting you even in the slightest, or otherwise it's a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. And it just pisses me off that people like Mahomes are trying to game the system. And it's like, it's just, and it works, and it works, and it works. And there was the one play that didn't give to him where he's flopping out of bounds. It's just like, fuck you, dude. And like,
and he's
if you
throwing
look,
his hands up, and
you're looking, it's that play's hilarious if you watch it back.
He's turning into LeBron.
He is. The Houston defenders are like looking at the ref. They're like, "Don't throw the flag!" Like they're basically like begging the refs not throw the flag. It's ridiculous. It's like, NFL? Do you see the game that you've created with this? Like, this has to change. This has to change. I believe it will.
Oh no, it has to. It has to. By the way, how important are turnovers? The 4 winning teams this weekend, all of them were even or plus on the turnover margin, and the 4 winners combined for plus 10 in turnovers. There you go, plus 10. To Big 25 says, good games this weekend, less stressful without the Niners in it too, pulling for the Bills to win it all. Joseph Ernberg says, trade Niners O and D for Josh Allen. Less, what does that say?
That's a lot. Heart. He's trying to make a heart.
He's trying to make a heart. Oh, love you, Krug. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Joseph.
You don't read text message language.
It's kind of a sideways heart. Okay. Bill LaFleur says gifted 5 the Krug Show memberships. Oh, nice. Well, hey, that is worth of a clap right there. That means he bought 5 memberships and he gifted them to 5 of his biggest enemies.
I think
best friends.
I don't know. I don't know who that goes to. I'm not sure who that goes to, but I think he just,
Bill.
He's a man of donation. He's a giving man.
I love it. Titus Moeller, who wanted us badly to come on last night, and I understood. And Titus, I saw your tweet to me. You're like, oh, you got to go live. But you know what? My sister was in town from Connecticut, so we had to go out to dinner and have a nice little dinner. Not had to, but we wanted to. So I figured I'd get back in time to do a little post game, Detroit Commanders post game. Then when I saw the Commanders won, I'm like, oh, I got to watch this first. So kind of jumped in the middle of us going live last night. So sorry we didn't go live last night, Titus. But he says 2 questions. 1, Larry, just curious for your scout summary of Terry McLaurin. Does San Francisco need a wide receiver? Not sure we have a true star until maybe BA returns. I mean, Terry McLaurin is a terrific player. I mean, he's an incredible route runner. He's very tough, and he's got really, really good hands. And he's been the number 1 guy there for a while, and he's a legit number 1 corner. Now he's not a game breaker. He doesn't have like the Mike Evans size. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill's speed. He doesn't have Debo's run after the catch. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson. But what he is a number 1 receiver who understands how to get open against zone, who has the ability to get open against man, understands how to sit in a soft spot in a zone. He can catch the ball in a crowd. Terry McLaurin, I also think, is one of the very best in the NFL at throwing. You can throw him open low. Like, he'll go and get low and scoop that thing right off the surface, and he always gets his hands beneath it. He's just a pro. He's not a burner. He doesn't have huge size, but what he is damn good. And do the Niners need a wide receiver? They do. They need a complimentary wide receiver who can run sub 4.4 if possible. They have now, obviously you got Debo if he's coming back. You got BA once he gets healthy. You got Pearsall. You got Cowing. You've got guys like Conley's a free agent. But they just signed Isaiah Hodgins, who's kind of a possession guy. They could really use that burner, that 4-3 guy. And I wouldn't invest a high pick in that. It's not a great year in the draft. I would fill the wide receiver need just off the surface, looking at the market. I'd probably look in the draft, in the free agent market. I like some of the free agent wide receivers. Greg RJZ says Campbell is a Mameluke and Goff is barely average. I don't know what a Mameluke is. I would say Goff is, if this were the 80s or 90s, you'd be like, Jared Goff is a real good passer, pocket passer. But in today's game, where there's so much moving the pocket, there's so many athletes on defense that make it almost, they torture the immobile quarterback. Now, defensive coordinators have gotten to a point where if your quarterback doesn't have mobility, they'll just run extra guys at him and make him move. The Niners did it in the second half, and you saw when Goff's got to run and move, he doesn't throw. He can throw lasers if he can stand there, undeterred. But if you make him reset his feet, if you make him move his feet, his completion percentage drops, his decision-making drops. Everything about his game falls apart. And he doesn't have the kind of, and he doesn't have that, he's a Marin kid. I don't know how to describe that for those of you who don't live here. But Marin is not like the bastion of, it's not Western Pennsylvania. Okay, it's not. It's rich kids, driving.
What are you trying to say here?
What I'm saying is this is not the toughest guy that ever walked the earth. This is a rich kid who went to a private school, who probably has never been in a fight in his life, who I guarantee you, nobody at Cal ever made him lift any weights at all because he had a completely underdeveloped upper body coming into the NFL. He's deficient strength-wise. He's just now building up his strength. He's been pumped full of confidence by Campbell, and it's still not working. He's being surrounded by the best offensive line there is, the best collection of talent there is, and he can't get it done. So all this people talking about Brock Purdy this, Brock Purdy that. Brock Purdy never had what Jared Goff has. Jared Goff has the best line in football. He's got Amon-Ra, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's got the best weapons, the best line. I mean, come on. He's got the best surrounding cast, and he can't get it done. So I just don't think he can get it done. I don't think he's good enough to win.
There's been a lot of debate about quarterbacks on 49ers
Twitter. You got to have mobility
Twitter
these days.
There's been a lot of debate, but like when Herbert loses, it's and I'm not saying this is necessarily wrong or right. I'm just saying what it's been is like when Herbert loses, like, oh, if you have the talent but you're not good, you're just not good. And Jared Goff loses, it's like, oh, like he's a game manager, like that proves how much Brock Purdy's good because he made it to the playoffs and he's a quote unquote game manager, whatever. I think what it really is just who's playing quarterback consistently really good all the time. Like if you're consistently a great quarterback without these highs and lows, if you're just consistently a good quarterback, the playoffs are going to be favorable to you because you can't have a bad game. It's lose and go home. So it's like Sam Darnold will never win a Super Bowl. He's not consistent enough as a quarterback to win in the playoffs. Like you see him implode. You need to be consistently great. And that's what Josh Allen is. I think Josh Allen comes to play every single Sunday and plays like a great quarterback. And I think that he's going to end up going to the Super Bowl this year. That's my prediction. But Jared Goff, I don't know if the consistency is there in terms of the turnovers. He definitely is a great game manager and he has great weapons around him, but he really, really shot himself in the foot with some of those interceptions. And you just can't have those. And that would be my biggest question for Jared Goff is he going to play consistently at a high level throughout the playoffs in the future?
Here would be my question. After Tom Brady, how many quarterbacks are going to win a Super Bowl as pure pocket passers with no mobility in this era? Because Tom Brady is the last of the pocket passers to really, really kick ass. Everybody else can run. You got to be able to run. Mac Jones is available, but Mac Jones doesn't look that good because he can't run. He can't run. Aaron Rodgers is available, but he can't run. Kirk Cousins is available, can't run. Look at the team. Look at the guys who are in the playoffs. Jayden Daniels, he can move. Hurts, he can move. Josh Allen, he can move. You know what I'm saying? Lamar, he can move. Russell Wilson, he can move. Jared Goff and Sam Darnold can't move at home. Knocked out. CJ Stroud was in the playoffs. He can move. Baker Mayfield can move a little bit. Brock Purdy can move a little bit. Herbert, can move a little bit, but he's more of a pocket passer. Mahomes can definitely move a little bit. Bo Nix can move a little bit. Stafford is a pocket passer. He's not a mover. He's not a runner per se, but you're also talking about maybe the best gun of his era. He's got one of the greatest arms of all time. So I'm just saying, if you really look at it, I really think that mobility used to be like, oh, that's a bonus. Now it's a prerequisite. You got to. Steve Young told me a few years ago. He's like, look, in today's NFL, they're going to give you some yards, but you're going to have to be able to take advantage of it with your legs. And if you can't take those yards that defensive coordinators give you, you can't win. And
I don't think you need. Yeah,
I really believe it.
I agree with you to an extent. I think really what it is every league, as it gets older, as years go by, it gets more competitive. Like we've seen it with basketball. The guys that were playing in the 60s were nothing compared to the athletes that we have on the court today.
Sure.
It's the same thing with football. You have to, I don't even know if it's necessarily you have to be some crazy athletic quarterback. You have to be able to scramble. You have to be able to pick up yards. It's not necessarily, you don't have to be Lamar.
You have to be Lamar or Michael Vick or something.
But you have to be able to pick up first down. You have to pick up the yards that are in front of you. And I think that
can't be a statue. Right. You can't be Marino anymore.
Yeah. You kind of have to, at this point, with the level of, competition that we're at right now, you have to be able to move. There's just like people in the comments like, oh, you're going to say that about Brady. Brady's the GOAT, and he didn't move. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but would Brady be undoubtedly a better quarterback if you had the athleticism of Lamar Jackson as well? Like, yes, you'd be better. Like, it's a fact. If Brady had Lamar Jackson's athleticism and everything else that he had, he would just be better. It's just a fact. Like, he would just be a better player. So as the league gets more competitive, yes, I agree. I think you're going to see a lot more of this. You got to be able to get the yards in front of you because everyone's doing it, and that's just part of the game now.
What are people going to say tomorrow about Lamar, by the way, other than 2-5 in the playoffs? I mean, he's a great player. There's no question. He was 18 to 25 for 254. He also ran 6 times for 39 yards. He had a 16-yard run. I think the longest pass play, he had a 39-yarder to Likely, a 42-yarder to Bateman, 27-yarder to Wallace. What's the nation going to say about Lamar tomorrow as he's a 2-time MVP who's 2-5 in the playoffs?
I think you're going to see crazy takes tomorrow. I think that's just the nature of how it works, but does he deserve it? That's a whole nother question. I mean, for sure, there's going to be people talking and saying, Lamar isn't the guy. Lamar, it's going to be this crazy reactionary. I think Lamar, I mean, like I said earlier in the show, he's the James Harden of the NFL. I think he's incredibly talented. I think he can be a winning quarterback. It hasn't come together. Am I going to blame him for those 2 terrible mistakes by Mark Andrews late in the game? I mean, no, I'm not. I thought Lamar played a great game. So no, I'm not going to make some take. I would never make some take tomorrow. Even if I was on a ESPN show, I would not be making a take tomorrow that Lamar Jackson is somehow, there's something, inherently wrong. There's some patent defect with Lamar, because he can't win in the playoffs. I think he has it in him. I just don't think it's come together.
Okay. Let me hit a couple more of these supers and we'll look ahead to next week's matchups. Landon Hansen says, hey, $4.99. Thank you, Landon. Appreciate that. Mike 824 says, I'm worried about KC winning again. The coaching trio of Reed, Spags, and Taub is stellar, and they have their guys disciplined and so well practiced. Mike, all I could say is there's reason for concern. Landon Hansen says, who we taking in the first, OT or edge? Second, running back or tight end? Third, I think Castro, Iowa, and Banks replacement. I think Castro. Not really sure what he's saying there. Castro from Iowa will be Banks' replacement. I'll have to check out Castro from Iowa. That's Aaron Banks at left guard. Landon, thanks for the who we taking for. I would say it's funny. Dane Brugler, who I did make contact with, and we're going to have on the show here in the next couple of weeks, who's probably the best draft guy there is. He just had a mock draft, and he had the Niners taking Anthony Membao from Missouri, an offensive lineman, with the 11th pick, and he had him taking Walter Nolan, a defensive tackle from Ole Miss in the second round. If that's the way it came down, that I wouldn't be mad at that. I mean, Membao is really intriguing if you look at him. He's long arms, very powerful, really pretty awesome, actually. His film looks great. I mean, he really does look great. And Walter Nolan, I believe, led the SEC in tackles for loss. He was second in PFF against the run among all defensive tackles in FBS. So, yeah, Walter Nolan would be a great second-round pick, and Memba. I would say that's what it's down to, though. I would say depending on what happens, trade back-wise, trade up, all that, I would say it's going to be either a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle for the 49ers. The more I watch, though, I got to be honest, this Alabama guard, Tyler Booker, is just such a road grader. And if you wanted to have a big physical interior, it wouldn't be bad to go a guy like that at left guard or maybe right guard and move Pooney to left guard, and you have a Booker-Pooney combo at guard for the next, I don't know, decade. Tyler Booker, the Alabama offensive guard, is a true run dominant player. All right, let's talk about next week. What do you think?
Let me pull up the bracket just so we can look at that.
There's also one note we should, the Commanders, I don't know if you saw this, but Dan Quinn confirmed that they have lost offensive lineman Sam Cosmi for the rest of the year. He is done. Cosmi tore his ACL, so he is done for the year. So that's a big loss for them for sure.
And you know who's on that offense? You know who's on that offensive line?
Nick Allegretti.
Yeah, your buddy, Allegretti.
My buddy Nick Allegretti, who's fantastic. Yeah. I'm telling you, Washington's good. Washington's got some players.
All right. This is the bracket. This is the updated NFC AFC Championship game bracket. It is going to be a fun weekend.
I'm taking Washington.
Which game do you want to get into first?
Well, let's talk about Washington and Philly. You got Jalen Hurts, who's not healthy. You got Philly at home. It's a tough place to play, but the Commanders know them really, really well. Now, I don't know what the division matchup or what the divisional history is. Is there a way you can tell me what the divisional history is? Because that's powerful. Like, there have been times where, I'm looking at Dallas, they're looking terrible, but they own the New York Giants, they play the New York Giants, and then all of a sudden Dallas blows them out, So a lot of times it's in these divisional matchups, it's who has the upper hand in the division. How are those head-to-head matchups? How did Philly and Washington do head-to-head? Did Philly sweep Washington, or did Philly split with Washington?
Let me check.
Because I like Washington. I think Washington's got a great vibe. I think they got a bunch of guys who are playing together. Daniels cannot be sped up. He's not. He can't be intimidated. They've got a lot of good talent there. I like Washington. I think Washington's got the magic. At this point, it's like either somebody's really good or somebody's got the magic.
The Eagles. Sorry, this is the record in history. Washington has a 90 and 85 and 5 record against the Eagles. They played 180
90, 85 and 5.
It's kind of crazy. They've tied 5 times. And then
but what's it recently?
Over the last 16 games, the Eagles have won are 12-4. Have won 12 of the 16.
And what were they this year?
Let me just check the schedule. Eagles schedule. I think they won both games, if I'm not mistaken.
They lost 26-18 at Philly, and that was week 11. And then they beat Philly 36-33 in Maryland.
Yeah.
So,
and that was a game where I think they came back. Or was that the game that
was week
Hurts
16
got injured? Was that the game that Hurts got injured?
It was Kenny Pickett played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hurts got hurt. Hurts only threw 4 passes. It was Kenny Pickett off the bench, went 14-24 for 143 and a touch and an interception. Barkley ran 29 times for 150. But Jayden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns in the game. He also threw 2 picks. What a game Jayden Daniels had. He was 24 of 39 for 258 and 5 touchdowns and 2 picks. He also was their leading rusher. He ran 9 times for 81 yards.
Do you want
Washington ran for 4.7 a carry last time. Zacchaeus was their leading receiver with 2 touchdowns, 5 catches for 70 yards.
This is a segment that Bill Simmons does, but do you want to do guess the lines? Like what would you guess this line's at with Eagles Commanders?
Ooh. Eagles Commanders. I will say it's Eagles -4, something like that. Yeah.
The line is 4.5. Pretty good.
Wow.
See, I would have thought maybe there would be some, Commanders love from the Bucks just because they've beat them. It's a divisional game. Like I would have thought it might have been like 3.5, 3, but yeah, 4.5. Some books have it at 5.5. What do you think about this Bills Chiefs though? What would you guess the line on that one?
I would say Bills beat the Chiefs earlier this year. It's in Kansas City. I'll say Chiefs. Chiefs are favored at home by 2.5.
It's 1.5.
Close. I'll tell you which is not wouldn't be a bad bet. What could you get on the Commanders to win the Super Bowl right now?
Like a futures. Let me see.
Here, wait, I have it here. It's Eagles are +175. Chiefs are +225. Bills are
+750.
+650. I see on the Super Bowl +650.
Okay.
6.5 to 1.
These are the odds I have right now. If I can,
I might just bet on that.
These are the odds I'm seeing right now. This is per Action Network. Eagles +170, Chiefs +235, Bills +250, and then Commanders +750.
The Commanders have some magic going right now, and that kid, here's the thing. There's old and there's young, and then there's so young that you don't even know what you're doing, and it's like that's Jayden Daniels. He's so young. It's kind of like when you have a newborn baby and you bring her or him home from the hospital, and you think, man, I've got the greatest baby that ever walked the earth. He or she never cries. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. 3 days later, the baby kind of wakes up from its birth slumber, and now that baby's crying like a maniac. Suddenly, you don't hear people going, oh, we have the baby that never cries. Now, your baby hasn't woken up yet. When it does, it's going to cry. He or she's going to cry a ton.
That's a great, I don't know what you'd call that, like a metaphor, or like that's a great comparison analogy.
Yeah, good analogy. I think Jayden Daniels is that baby that is so new that everybody right now it's like he's not like. Did you see his look on the sidelines?
That's who he is, though. That's who he
looked so chill. He looked. I mean, this was not a guy who was fretting. This is not a guy who was like. This guy has got a slow pulse. This guy's calm and cool. I mean, he's pretty awesome, actually. I mean, now I know why Ayuk and him were talking such. Ayuk was talking him up as such a big, at the time. Where I go, if Jayden Daniels, he could help me take my game to the next level. And I'm like, how could you say that? And you're ripping Brock Purdy. Now I kind of know what he meant.
Yeah. No, I mean that's like a character trait of some of the elite athletes, like having the ability to control your emotions or just control your heart rate when you're in a situation like that. Like most people, if they're put in a situation where it's high stakes, high leverage, everyone's screaming crazy, this is do or die moment. A lot of people freak out and crumble. The people that are able to get better in those situations are people that are champions. In terms of these games, I think Brett, before we get out of here, I would probably lean Eagles. I agree that there's some magic going on with the Commanders, but I don't know. I think the Eagles just have more talent. And I know I said that last week about the Lions, but the Lions shot themselves in the foot. I think the Eagles have more talent. Not that the Commanders aren't talented, but I just think the Eagles have so much talent. And then I'm going to go Bills again because I believe in my man Josh Allen. I think
It's his time.
I think there is actually something magical going on over there. He's just winning, and he's just a gamer. I just love the way he's playing right now. They're unstoppable. He's unstoppable, and I just want to fade this Chiefs team, not just because personally I hate them, but also because I just don't like the brand of football they're playing. I know that they're winning, but it's just ugly. I just don't feel like a team that's playing this ugly should be a championship team.
Oh, by the way, the Swift and Caitlin Clark. I mean, come on. I mean, stop, please. Make it stop. I like Washington to beat Philly. I like Buffalo to beat Kansas City. And Buffalo does not win Super Bowls. Jayden Daniels wins the Super Bowl. Jayden Daniels wins the Super Bowl.
What?
I'm taking it, man. I'm taking it. I'll take that 7-1. I'm gonna wager on that tomorrow.
No, this is crazy, bro. That's crazy.
I'm throwing down a few ducats on that for sure. Landon Hansen says Castro's a slot cornerback. My bad. Try to sum up what I was saying. Sorry about that, Landon. We were all over the place on your read there. Elanta 3 says San Rafael High here. I get to pay for the right to be insulted. Thanks, Lair. Well, come on, man. All I'm saying is that Marin County, and San Francisco's I'm not saying, oh, I'm a badass. I'm not. Northern California is not the hotbed of toughness. Okay. I mean, it's just not. If you tell me you're from Camden, New Jersey, you tell me you're from the South Bronx, you tell me you're from the South Side of Chicago, you tell me, there are places.
There's some tough places.
You tell me you're from Baltimore. You tell me
if you're from Oakland,
Marin
or
County.
Stockton,
Marin County is not the last bastion of Come on, it's Marin County. I don't know how to compare that to anybody, but let's just say this: the Marin schools were good at sports, but they weren't. It was not. Let's just say this: if you went to a Marin party, if you went to a party in Marin in high school,
I don't see this.
No fights broke out. It was a very calm. It was a great place to hang out. You were very safe. Really good kids.
What does this have?
There's not the median home price in this area is like $1.85 million. I mean, I'm not even joking. This is a rich area. This is an incredibly wealthy area. I'm trying to explain it to people who live in other parts of the country. The median home price in the greater Marin County area is probably like $2.2 million. So we're not talking about the mean streets.
Because he can't play well because of that?
No, I'm just saying he's not the toughest guy that ever walked the earth. He's a Marin kid. Okay? I mean, if there were other people here from the city, they could vouch. But other than I'm just trying to explain what Northern California is like. There are no such things as the mean streets of San Rafael. I somehow made it out of Tiburon. No. There's like tennis clubs in Tiburon. Andre Agassi lives in Tiburon with like $28 million home. Mike824 says Spags got more airtime than Swift. He deserved it. Cryptic says no rookie quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl. You saying history is made either way? No three-peat, but a rookie win? Yes, I think this is the year the rookie wins the Super Bowl. That kid is great. He is fantastic. I'm all in on Jayden Daniels at this point. Tangy says all of Baltimore isn't an episode of The Wire. I know. I've been to Baltimore. But believe me, Baltimore is tougher than Marin City. All right? That's all I'm saying. And it wasn't meant to set anybody off. All right. Kev, you got a final thought. Who do you like? I'm going Washington.
I just told you. I told you. I like
Kansas City to lose to Buffalo and Buffalo to lose to Washington and Jayden Daniels to win on Super Bowl Sunday and be the Super Bowl MVP.
I like Eagles, Bills to win it all.
All right. That would be great for the people of Buffalo. By the way, those people sitting under the red lights, those are heat lamps, right?
What do you mean?
In Buffalo?
Like in the stadium?
Yeah, it was like there was a whole level where people were sitting under red lights.
Are you just saying that? Was that during the whole game? Or I just saw that when they scored. I thought they just like.
No, I think that was the whole game. I think there are certain seats at that stadium where you sit underneath like space heaters, which is, tells you they need it.
I don't know if that's true, but that's cool.
I think, if anybody knows, but I think that's what we were looking at. We got this one from Jumaro Thomas. Kyle and Lynch better be concerned.
Well,
Shax's Commanders Super Bowl champions. Itchy 95 says he's with you. He's with you.
We will see.
All right. That's going to do it for us. What a weekend. What a weekend. Some incredible stuff this weekend. Monday night, we get the national championship. Who do you like?
Ohio State. Give me Ohio State. You and me talked about this on the phone, but they're just more talented. I think they match up perfectly for this Notre Dame team. Notre Dame is plenty talented and they deserve to be here. They won tough games to get here. I don't think that some people are saying that, like they got an easy path and that they didn't really deserve it. They're a good team, but this Ohio State team is just similar to the Texans defense, as I was saying. They've come together at the right moment. This team is on fire right now. Offensively, defensively, it's all coming together, and they're going to walk away with this one pretty easy, I think.
That's a big spread. Do you see the number?
So
Buckeyes minus 8.5. 8.5. And Notre Dame's so well coached, and they're 14-1, and it's just, it's like something tells me Notre Dame might hang around, but the Buckeyes should win that game, and they should win going away. I kind of agree. Unless Jeremiah Smith, the freshman receiver, who has 71 catches this year and 14 touchdowns, he could go off. If he goes off, he could take over the game, and it could be blowout city.
Did we get this last super here?
Delta O'Neill, Milpitas High, South Bay street cred. There you go. Delta O'Neill and I went to dinner.
Fuck is that picture, bro? That's
yeah, nice picture. Delta O'Neill was a great corner at Cal, and his agent and I were buddies. And I had him in studio the year he came out. And he came over. We went out to dinner across from the radio station. Then they were up in the studio, and great dude, really good football player, amazing college football player. I hadn't seen that name in a long, long time. The great Delta O'Neill. That's it. That's it for us. All right. That's going to be it. Thanks to Better for being a sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the proud sponsor of the Krug Show. I am back with you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We'll do a little live stream with Damon Bruce. And then tomorrow night, there'll be no Niners Nightly, by the way, at 6 o'clock because of the national championship game. We'll be back with you on Tuesday night for Niners Nightly at 6 o'clock, and you'll want to join me because Matt Miller, the NFL draft guide, and one of the best draft guys in the country for ESPN.com, he's a big Niner fan. He's actually going to join me 6:15 on Tuesday night on Niners Nightly, and we'll take our first look ahead to the draft and get his thoughts on what the 49ers need and how this draft kind of lays out for them, and who he thinks might be good fits and some people that he's looking at. So really looking forward to that. That's Tuesday night on Niners Nightly on KMBR's KMBR 680 on the AM dial and 104.5 on the FM dial. And, of course, if you're out of the market, you can catch that on iHeartRadio. And we'll probably do a reposting of it sometime at some point on the Krug Show, and we'll use some cuts from that. But Matt Miller is fantastic, so he's going to be with us on Tuesday night. All right, that's going to do it for us. Have a great night. Kev, you got a final thought on the way out the door?
No.
Peace. Everybody, have a great one. Thanks for tuning in to the Krug Show.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.